Very good to be back here. I really enjoyed my visit to Georgian College when I came here. It was about a little over a month ago, and I was able to speak with the stewards and the officers here. And you have a really good team here from a union perspective, which is great. And some of the things that Terry was talking about in terms of what you folks have been able to negotiate at your institution is really a testament to who you have on your side of that negotiating table, which is great. Now, also, it's a bit of a comment on the kind of management group you folks had for a few years, which is amazing. Unfortunately, it is not the standard system-wide. So things are pretty intense system-wide when you look at all the different colleges. There's 24 in Ontario. I've visited 23, so I'm close to doing all of them. And around the system, it is a very, very challenging time right now for college professors. So partly what I want to talk about is the situation we're facing coming into negotiations in the summer of 2014, and then a little bit of what I've found from visiting 23 of the colleges. So part of this presentation will be familiar to folks who were at my first visit, and part of it is sort of changed up. So hopefully there'll be some new stuff for the stewards and officers who watched it first. So basically speaking, like I said, right now as college professors, and really, I slipped up and I was about to say university professors, everyone in post-secondary education is facing a very difficult time right now to do the work we're doing to deliver quality education. Part of this is because of this climate of austerity that we are facing in Ontario and also Canada-wide, and really, you could almost say globally in terms of quote-unquote developed countries. There are austerity regimes that are in place in terms of how governments are managing their finances and how they're looking at such things as public services. We're also seeing, and again, this is where Georgian has been quite lucky over the last few years, and unfortunately this is not the case in most colleges. In most colleges, there's a very sort of autocratic, very corporate style of management, which has been really marginalizing faculty input at the end of the day, sort of writing us out of academic decisions. And this is where it's incredible that you folks actually have an IP policy that doesn't just completely rob you blind. At the end of the day, most other IP policies in colleges, that's basically what they're designed to do. The colleges are putting out academic freedom policies. This is sort of a thing they're scrambling to do because they know our members are concerned about academic freedom. I've read a few of these academic freedom policies, and they're really quite interesting how you can spend so much time actually detailing all the ways in which you don't have academic freedom in an academic freedom policy. It's kind of interesting how they're able to do that. So definitely changes to management, and really what we're concerned about, I think as college professors, is what all of this is doing to, first of all, our work environment, and secondly, to what we're all here to do, which is to provide education for students, to help them move forward with their career goals, with their life goals. And this is pretty important work. I know everyone here in this room feels that. And I just want to say, that's why I'm here today as well. I'm a faculty member, just like everyone in the room. I teach social sciences, at Mohawk College. And the reason why I'm standing here is because I was really concerned about what I was seeing happening at my institution, and ways in which my ability to do the best possible job that I could were being impacted negatively. So what I want to talk about moving forward is, first of all, a little bit of history in terms of how the college system first was constituted, and then how things have changed since those early days. So the college system was created in 1965, it's quite a few years ago. And this was a unique time in Canadian history. It was a time when, as the economy was growing, as more wealth was being created, it was actually being more equitably distributed at the same time. And today this almost seems like a mythical kind of scenario, right? Instead, what we've seen more recently is growing income inequality. But back when the college system was founded, there was more wealth and it was being distributed more equally. There was this sense in Canadian society that public services were important, that there was a role in government in helping, working middle-class Canadians, providing services in health, education, and social services. So there was lots of funding available. And then this started to change in the late 1970s, and government priorities started to shift. And there's two ways in which we can look at this shift And really we're talking about a shift in government priorities and a shift in how government got its revenue. Okay, so government gets revenue primarily, of course, from taxation. And there's been some radical changes to the tax structure in Canada and also in Ontario. Not radical for your average working class or middle class person at all. In fact, when you look at the kind of taxes we're paying compared to what we were paying 30 years ago, it's pretty much the same. Maybe a point or two has been shaved off. But we've seen massive changes to the tax structure for the very wealthiest people in Canada. So one way to get at this is looking at income tax rates. And if you look at the highest income bracket, so we all know income tax is indexed based on how much money you make in a year. And if you're in the highest income bracket, you pay the highest rate of income tax. Back in 1948, that was 80%. Okay, so that meant that if you were in the highest income bracket, every dollar you made past that cutoff point, you paid 80 cents of that in tax. Today, that tax rate is just under 43%. So you're looking at almost a half of what people used to pay sort of back in 1948. You see the same changes in corporate taxes as well. In Canada, corporations pay both federal and provincial tax. And federal taxes, again, have been chopped more than in half. So 1960, you had a 41% corporate tax rate. Now it's 15%. In Ontario today, corporate taxes are about 11.5%. And again, that's a historic low. And these corporate tax rates are not just incredibly low in relation to our own history, they're incredibly low when you compare us to other countries. So Canada likes to, we're a member of what's known as the OECD, the Organization for Economic Cooperation and Development. And this is a group of very developed countries, and they like to sort of get together and swap statistics on life expectancies and literacy rates and these sorts of things. It's kind of like a big comparison club. And Canada usually has fared very well in comparison with these other countries. We're kind of up in the top where we want to be. Recently, if anyone's been listening to the CBC, we slipped in our math scores, right? So there's ways in which, interestingly enough, the government changes towards funding education. And of course, the CBC, they were talking about at the secondary level, not necessarily post-secondary, but these things are having an impact. So within the OECD, I guess the point I'm trying to make is we are near the bottom in terms of corporate tax rates. Okay, so we have some of the lowest corporate tax rates out of the developed world in general. Why should we care about this as professors? Well, basically what this has meant, 30 years of tax cuts to corporations and to the very, very wealthiest people, is there are billions of dollars of missing revenue. Okay, so what the government basically has done over the past 30 years is gutted its revenue stream, and not by giving tax breaks to your average working person, by giving tax breaks to the very wealthiest and to large corporations. Corporate cash reserves, record levels again in Canada. Recent economists have estimated over $500 billion is just sort of stashed away by our corporations. And what's interesting is, why were corporate tax cuts sold to people? Or what was the basis on which they were sold to Canadians? What were they supposed to do?
Get us jobs.
Yeah. So the idea was that you cut corporate taxes, corporations have more money, and then they're going to reinvest it in the economy. They're going to improve their infrastructure. They're going to hire more people, produce more wealth. This is sort of the story that we were told. Instead, what's happened is they've socked cash away, a lot of it in offshore accounts. And really what's interesting is as these tax cuts kicked in, investment in what economists call the real economy as opposed to the financial economy, investments in the real economy have steadily declined since early 1980s. Jim Stanford from the Canadian Centre for Policy Alternatives has done some really good research on this.